If you would open your Bibles, Joshua chapter 24. Joshua chapter 24, a familiar passage of Scripture, beginning with verse 11. Joshua chapter 24, verse 11. Notice these words. Then you went over the Jordan and came to Jericho. The men of Jericho fought against you. Also the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But I delivered them into your hand. I sent the hornet before you, which drove them out from before you. Also the two kings of the Amorites, but not with your sword or with your bow. I have given you a land for which you did not labor, and cities which you did not build. And you dwell in them. You eat of the vineyards and olive groves which you did not plant. Now therefore fear the Lord. Serve him in sincerity and in truth. And put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river and in Egypt. Serve the Lord. And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the God of the Amorites in whose lands you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I want to talk today about decisions, the steering wheel to your life. Decisions. The steering wheel to your life. Life is filled with a multitude of incredible decisions that we have to make. Where we're going to go to school, where we're going to live, who we're going to marry. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Well, you know, the children of Israel, they went over the Jordan, and this is important for you to understand the journey. Say the journey. Do you realize that the journey is as important as the destination? You know why? Because the journey introduces you to yourself. You don't know who you are if you don't understand the journey. The journey helps to make us who we are. And the children of Israel here went over the Jordan. Jordan is a place of separation. It is a place of separation. The Jordan is a place of separation. When we talk about people crossing over the river Jordan, they use it as a barrier, speaking of death, when somebody has crossed over the river Jordan. It's a place of separation. Jordan speaks of separation. And my question to you is, what separates you from those around you? There ought to be a distinction in your sound. There ought to be a distinction in your look, in your flavor, in your swag. There ought to be something unique about you. What makes you different? If there's nothing different about you, nobody will remember you. Common blends in, average blends in. Have you found your uniqueness yet? I told you that God made us so unique that out of 7 billion people on the planet, nobody else smells exactly like you. That's why if a bloodhound had your scent on an article of clothing, that bloodhound could track you down out of 7 billion people on the planet, because nobody smells exactly like you. So what is it that you possess that gives you distinction? What is it that you possess that gives you distinction so that you don't blend into this multitudinous commonality in the world? What is it that makes you different? Have you experienced your Jordan, the thing that brings separation or distinction to you? And then they left the place of Jordan, the place of separation, and then it brought them, the next destination was Jericho. Jericho is a place of prosperity. You'll never come to your place of prosperity until you find your uniqueness. You got to find the thing that separates you. What is the thing that you have found that you'll leave the crowd for so that you will develop and sharpen in your life that it makes you prosperous? What is it that you found in your Jordan experience that separates you, that causes you to study, that causes you to practice, that causes you to sacrifice to become so sharpened that the world will be the path to your door? What is it? And so choose for yourself whom you will serve. They came to Jericho, the place of prosperity. Choose for yourselves whom you will serve. Now listen, you are defined by whom you serve or by what you serve. There are some people who are defined in this world because they are self-serving. Touch your neighbor and say, I know that person. It is no fun to be around self-serving people. You know, you are known by whom you serve or what you serve. And I know people that are in the world and they think that they are God's gift to the world, that they are the center of the universe, that everything revolves around them, and all of their decisions are so self-centered because they are self-serving. And let's trust me, they are not a blessing to be in relationship with. When you find self-serving people. The thing that we must understand is that we are designed for relationship. We're designed for relationship. You know, Jesus chose 12 men as apostles to be his disciples. And do you know that relationships are so critical that this is one of the times that Jesus spent the full night in prayer before he chose the 12 men that would be with him, that he would disciple. He spent the night in prayer before he chose them. Now that ought to tell you something, that he wasn't marrying these men. And I know people who are too lazy to even pray all night about who they're going to marry. If there's anything, you need to turn your plate down. You need to fast. You need to get on your face before God. If you get it straightened out up front, you won't stick out behind. Now I want to say this to you, that we are either shaped by the relationships that choose us, or we choose our relationship on the basis of who we intend to become. I want you to notice that. We are either shaped by the relationships that choose us, or we choose our relationships on the basis of who we intend to become. Jesus said to his disciples, he says, you didn't choose me, I chose you. And their lives became shaped because of who chose them to be in relationship with them. And so my question to you is, do you have the right relationships in your life that will help you to become who you need to be? Do you have the right relationships in your life that will help you to become who you need to be? The proper relationships of mentoring. Do you have the right relationships for friends? Because your life is going to be shaped by the 5 people that are closest to you. Do you have the right relationships in your life that will help you to become who you need to be? You need to take a close introspection. As a coming year, you need to really reevaluate the relationships that you give close a proximity to your life. To say, who are these folks? Do I have the right people in my life influencing me, helping me to become who I need to be? But before you make any major decisions, remember that God was challenging his people, saying, choose you this day, make a decision today. He said, make a decision today who you're going to serve. Whether you're going to serve God's purpose for your life, for which you're born, or whether you're going to be self-serving, pleasing your flesh, doing what feels good right now. Before you make any major decision, pray for the mind of Christ. Pray for the mind of Christ. That's why Jesus spent all night in prayer before he chose his 12 apostles. Then you ask God for wisdom. James chapter 1 tells us, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. You need to know the mind of God. Get the wisdom of God. Then number 3, research. Just do some old-fashioned researching. Because the more you find out about things, you might discover this is not really what I want. You don't really know whether you want something until you really count the cost. Researching is a part of counting the cost to say, do I really want this in my life? Do I really know this person well enough? Have I researched her well enough or researched him well enough to say that I can deal with all of their idiosyncrasies, all of their issues, all of their peculiarities? Do I know this person well enough? Have I done sufficient research? And then I would say, seek counsel from others who have gone before you. Seek counsel from others who have gone before you. You pray for the mind of Christ. You ask God for wisdom. You research and you seek counsel from others who have gone before you. Because there's some other things that you may not realize about it. It always looks easier than what it is. So that's why you have to get the counsel of others to see, because what you desire today might not be your same desire 10 years from now. So you might need to talk to somebody who's been in it for 10 years because they can tell you the pros and cons. And until you ask questions, you don't get answers. And here's the thing that I want you to realize. Questions demand decisions. Questions demand decision. We don't make a decision until we question some things. Should I do this or should I not? Should I marry her? Should I not? Questions demand decision. What kinds of questions? Questions like, who am I? Who am I? That's a question. It demands a decision. Your decision is going to determine who you are. Why am I here? That's another question. It demands a decision. It demands you to make a decision. Why am I here? What will I do about my past? That's a question that demands a decision. You know why? Because you must choose who you become. You choose who you become. Nobody else chooses who you become. You choose who you become. You choose the kind of attitude that you have. Nobody else is responsible for your attitude. You choose your attitude. If you got a bad attitude, guess who's responsible? You're the one who chooses your own attitude. You choose who you become. So don't leave who you become to chance. Don't leave who you become to chance. Make a decision. Make a decision. Live life with intentionality. Make a decision. The power of choice and decision is what separates us from animals. Animals do what they do by instinct. We have the luxury of the power of choice and decision. We can make a choice about something to say, I was born this way, but I'm not going to die this way. You don't have to die the same way that you were born. That is up to the power of your decision. And there are certain things that you will never get God's divine help to come in and sustain you until you make a decision. Until you become like a Mary that says, be it unto me even according to your word. Lord, I'm deciding that I want to do this thing your way. At that moment, you become sustained by divine help. That God will send the Holy Spirit once you have given a yes. And God is sometimes just looking for somebody that will make a decision to say, yes, I will be the one. Yes, I will pay the price. Here am I, Lord. Send me. Use me for your glory. He's looking for somebody that'll make a decision to say, I'll do it. I'll do it. Whom will I send and who shall go for us? He's looking for somebody. And the moment that you say, God, use me for your glory. Use me to be able to play an instrument. Use me to sing. Use me to dance. Use me to be able to put things together and to organize and strategize. Use me, God, as a visionary. Use me for your glory. He's looking for somebody to make a decision to say, I'll do it. The moment that you do so, supernatural help, the Holy Spirit comes and empowers you to become more than you could ever be. But nothing will happen until you make a decision. We tie God's hands until we make a decision. And my point to you is this. We have life now in what we call surround sound. We're in stereo. This is not a mono system any longer. The world would be so bland if this was monochrome and everything was just one color. But I want you to understand that you have the power of making a decision. And somebody says, well, you know, Well, I'm a free spirit. I'm creative. And when you work within man's constraints, it just stifles my creativity. No, it doesn't. Being creative is when you have limited options with which to work. And you're able to take a little bit of nothing and make a whole lot of something out of a little bit of nothing. That's creativity. You are not limited to say, all that you gave me to work with was. When you find really creative people, you don't complain about what you have to work with. It is a poor carpenter who blames his tools. May I just tell you that you are not in this world to live a monochronistic life of just one color. Do you realize if I'm an artist, I could complain about the world and say, you know what, the world only has 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. They're the 3 primary colors. All of the other colors come from some variation of 3 colors. Wouldn't it be foolish if I'm an artist and I'm complaining, you give me 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow, and this is all that I have with which to work? That's all you need, baby. That's all you need is the creative hand of God upon your life. And say, God, I've got to work with the confines of these 3 colors right here. And if you can give me these 3 colors, I'll bring out some turquoise and some fuchsias. I'm going to make a pink. I'm going to make blue-green. I will create so many different colors. How dare you sit back and act as though you are limited because you don't have but a little bit. Little becomes much when it's submitted into the master's hand. And when you said, God, use me, wouldn't it be foolish if I'm a musician and if I said, God, I don't have but 8 notes with which to work, an A, B, C, D, E, F, and a G. But when I allow the creative God, the hand of God to come, he begins to move through different rhythms and patterns of how I organize the same 8 notes in different array with different speeds and different rhythms and different patterns and different combinations that begins to create harmony and melodies and rhythms and beats and all of these things. And so much is created because somebody had a decision to say, God, use me, even though it's a little bit. How he can take somebody who has a little bit of money but a whole lot of creativity and a lot of imagination. Can God do anything but somebody that will say, God, here am I, use me, I don't have much, but God, you're putting something in me to be able to make a little more than my life has right now. I don't have but the basics. That's all you need, baby, is the basic. You can take a red, a yellow, and a blue, and I'm telling you that God can cause you to create something in such dynamic, living color that the world will stand back in amazement. He add value to what you do. You are the one that brings the value to the color. It's not the color that brings value to you. When you allow the creative hand of God that God has placed in your life and use the power of a decision to say, God, I choose to be an expression of your divine creativity in the earth. I'm made from Elohim God. Elohim is creator God. We are made in his image with his creative ability. And here we are complaining and griping and mealy-mouthing to the Lord and say, Lord, all you gave me was rhythm. All you gave me was 3 basic colors. That's all you need, baby. That's all you need. That's all you need. That's all you need. That's all you need. That's all you need mixed with creativity. And God will show you how to make it do what it do. He'll allow you to be able to raise children off of a little bit because of creativity of God showing you. Watch me keep children. Watch me wash somebody's clothes. Watch me cut grass. I don't care. Watch me fry chicken. I don't care what I got to do. God will show you a way. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He'll show you a little something on the side. Touch a neighbor and say, thank God for the stuff on the side. You have to decide that you're going to live creatively. You decide that you're going to live creatively. You were born to create and procreate. God said it, be fruitful and multiply. Create and procreate. And may I just remind you of this, that how you think about and respond to your past determines your future. How you think about and respond to your past determines your future. Think about who you are becoming and where your past can take you. And focus on the things that are within your own control. The past isn't one of them. You can't control your past. You can't control what happened to you. But you can control how you think about it and how you respond to it. May I just tell you, when you think about your past, I want you to learn to own your offenses. Say, I was wrong. Will you forgive me? Own your offenses. Forgive others their shortcomings. That's what you can do about your past. Forgive others of their shortcomings. Own the ones that you did. I was wrong. I was wrong. But unless you ask questions, you don't get answers. You have to ask yourself the questions, who are my helpers and whom am I assigned to help? Who are my helpers and whom am I assigned to help? You have to ask yourself this question, what is my next move? What's my next move? How are you going to make a next move if you don't know what it is? You have to ask yourself this question, will I allow my fears to dictate my future? Will I allow my fears to dictate my future? And here's the Mac Daddy of all the questions in my opinion. How do I want to be remembered? How do I want to be remembered? How do I want to be remembered? Little girl at St. Jude that was being treated for cancer. They asked the little girl, about 7 years old, sweetheart, are you afraid of dying? And in a very sobering way, she said, no, I'm not afraid of dying. She said, I'm afraid of not being remembered. Will anybody remember that I was ever here? Will they remember that I was here? I'm afraid of not being remembered. How do you want to be remembered? And I want you to realize that you may not be responsible for how or for where you were born and some of the circumstances that you currently face. But the caliber of your decisions, the caliber of those decisions has the power to influence your life and to help you to prepare for your next season or your next shift in life. Just the caliber of your decisions. You know why? Because decisions demand change or action. Decisions demand change. Decisions demand action. Remember, the word decision literally means, de means off, sis means to cut, shun means the state of. Decision is the state of cutting off. Decisions, to cut off. When you make a decision that I want the baked chicken instead of the fried chicken. Now, one is for health, one is for flavor. When you make the decision that I'm going to go for the baked, I'm cutting off the option of the fried. Does that make sense? Incision, to cut in. Excision, to cut out. You excise cancer. Circumcision, to cut around. But decision requires that something be cut off. If I cut this off, I make a decision. I'm cutting off other options. I made a decision 30 years ago to marry one woman. I cut off the option of Mary and Sally, Sue. I had to cut off the option. And people get so mixed up because they look at life as a smorgasbord. Because men come in and they find desperate women. All change begins with a decision. All change begins with a decision. All change begins with a decision. It said, where do I go? Even if it's something that happens that you didn't initiate. You can have an accident. You didn't decide to have an accident, but you can decide how you respond to the accident. Whether you're going to become a victim for the rest of your life, or whether you'll take what happened to you and use it and find power and purpose in your pain. And say, God, somehow through what happened to me, God, empower me so that this happens to nobody else. Lord, use me so that I become a crusader. Lord, that the very thing that came to try to take me down, may it empower me, God, to become more than I've ever been all of the days of my life. You do have a choice. Now, I want you to notice something here in verse 14 of this chapter, of the 24th chapter of Joshua. Now, therefore, fear the Lord. Serve him in sincerity and truth. In other words, be real with God. Come on, be real with God. Stop faking it. Be real with God. Be genuine. And put away the gods which your father served on the other side of the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. Listen, if you're going to be different from your relatives, you're going to need to employ the power of choice. You have to say, listen, I know my mama did this, my daddy did that. But if I'm going to be different than my mama and my daddy, if I'm going to be different, I'm going to have to put away the gods of my fathers, the stuff that's been generationally that has messed my family up. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to make a decision. I'm just telling you, you can find families that be jacked up in the family. And then you'll find somebody that emerges out of that because they made a decision. I'm not going to live like that. I'm not going to live like that. I can do better than that. I'm born for more. I'm born for more. Touch your neighbor and say, I'm born for more. And remember, it is what you decide to do differently that makes you different. It's what you decide to do differently that actually makes you different. Your decisions that really hold true in your life are not the ones that you merely make out of your beliefs, but they're decisions that you make out of your convictions. It's not just your beliefs, it's your conviction. Oh yeah, I believe I'm supposed to eat right. You don't eat right because you believe you're supposed to eat right. You eat right because you have a conviction that if I don't do this, I am convinced that I'm going to get sick.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.